A whole lot of breath. I just got done running sprints and doing some rowing sprints, just kind of ease my way back into more normal workouts while I was there. It was mostly a lot of walking, some push-ups and stuff like that. So I didn't have access to a kind of regular gym. So weight was about unchanged. I think I left there around 2.
Would you grieve for Matt Walsh if he was hit by an anvil? No, I think I'd be worried if the anvil was okay.
58, came back 256, so no real change in weight. I've had French baguettes before, they're fine, but it wasn't anything that I felt the need to indulge in, and I didn't. So, but anyway, criticism on a carnivore diet, they're ubiquitous. Everybody's talking about it. It's because it drives clicks and views and something to talk about it. And the typical thing is, well, it's just a calorie deficit, or you could do it on any diet. This is potentially dangerous long term. And again, the so-called long-term dangers are really unknown. No one really knows. Anybody says it, basically.
We know the long-term dangers. People who eat more red meat have higher risk of heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes. If you're eating only skeletal muscle tissue, you have risk of getting vitamin C deficiency or scurvy. For pregnant women, again, if they're not supplementing, they're more likely to have children that have birth defects, namely Down syndrome, because of folate deficiency. We know the potential risks, so he's just completely full of shit and lying.
Based on our information about nutrition, surely this must be bad.
Thoughts on Yakub?
Complete gaslighting and BS. We have no long-term data. I would say no modern nutritional long-term data. We've got countless historical accounts of this and the whole perhaps evolution of human beings as sort of counter evidence there. But one of the things that I often see is, let's just say that you go on a carnivore diet and at some point you die. That's a pretty reasonable scenario. I think we're all going to die. And you're probably going to die of heart disease or cancer. I mean, those are just the realities of
Yeah, the issue is that you're more likely to die of those things if you eat a diet of exclusively red meat.
Of living today. I mean, and if you don't, then good on you. But I mean, it's just like to say that a carnivore diet is going to make me more likely to develop heart disease or cancer versus the average person, I think probably is not true. Now, I don't know that for sure because...
Yeah, so I don't know what he means by the average person. If you were to adjust for BMI, you would probably be more likely to die of heart disease on a carnivore diet, and same with cancer, because, again, red meat increases the risk for these diseases.
Again, we do not have long-term randomized controlled trials on this diet.
You don't need them.
10 billion for that matter on any diet that would answer that question truly. So we just don't know that. Now,
yeah, so again, we have regression analyses on replacement of red meat with other foods. We have prospective cohort studies on red meat intake, and it's clear increasing red meat intake increases the likelihood of heart disease, diabetes, and certain forms of cancer. So we don't need any specific studies on the carnivore diet to know your risk of these diseases increases.
Why do I think a carnivore diet can be superior to many other diets versus just a calorie deficit, just eat a lot of protein, eat a lot of fiber diet, right? Well, as we probably are very painfully aware here in the United States, somewhere north of 70% of our population is either too friggin' fat or obese, right? We've got a 70% overweight obese population. That number is growing, right? All the Ozempic shots in the world are not going to change that.
Yes, what is he talking about? Obesity rates in the United States are actually decreasing massively. It's down nearly 10%. And that's because of Ozempic. As soon as Ozempic was released out onto the market, rates of obesity have been decreasing. So if anybody who's overweight and obese takes Ozempic and stays on it long enough, they're not going to be obese or overweight anymore. So that is completely false. That completely contradicts the data. He's claiming Ozempic isn't going to solve the obesity epidemic. Well, clearly it is. That's what the data fucking shows. You're an idiot and you're a fucking liar. Secondly, he's claiming there's no way to fucking tell if the carnivore diet is going to increase the risk of heart disease or cancer because we don't have any specific trials on the carnivore diet. But then he's claiming that, oh, I know the carnivore diet is better for weight loss than any other diet. Okay, do you have any fucking specific weight loss trials comparing the carnivore diet to any other diet intervention? No? So then how do you know that? Weird. That sounds like a double standard. I get everything
Even if Donald Trump becomes president and he appoints RFK to the HHS, human secretary, where he's in charge of the healthcare system or the food system, even if he gets in place and they say we're gonna clamp down on this and that by itself, and that's still a big if that happens, is unlikely to be sweeping change. It's likely to be incremental things over many, many years, phased out over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And so don't depend on that as your salvation, because it won't be, right? We have food addiction. We have 70% of the population, I would argue, is addicted to crappy food, right? And why? If just cutting calories and eating more protein and working out was the answer, why do we have such a friggin' fat population? If that were the answer and it was so simple like that, the answer is because we're dealing with addiction on top of this, right? And how do you break addiction? Do you tell an alcoholic, hey, just moderate a few drinks here and there?
Yeah, my comment got
work,
blocked.
right? And this is the thing, people that go on a carnivore diet, and there are many tens upon tens of thousands, probably into the 100,000s, perhaps the millions at this point, are, I would say universally, but in significant ways, a significant majority of them are saying, this is the first time I've been able to give up the stuff. I don't have cravings for the garbage anymore. I'm finally able to shut off the intrusive sort of thoughts about food. And
that's why almost everybody who tries the carnivore diet gets bored of it after a few weeks and says, I don't want to only eat steak anymore, and they end up quitting.
That is significant. That is tremendously significant. To the point that people are being demonized as being orthorexics or having an eating disorder because, they won't indulge in their Ho-Hos and Twinkies and Doritos and ice cream here and there. You wouldn't. Can you?
Yeah, dude, if you eat nothing but steak, you have an eating disorder.
Can you imagine calling an alcoholic that doesn't drink anymore something wrong with them? What's wrong with you? Can't you have a little drink here and there? It's the same sort of deal here, guys.
This comparison is absurd. Eating a diet that we know increases risk of chronic disease and excluding all other foods that, including ones that we know are helpful, like broccoli or kale or lettuce or watermelon or like berries, blueberries or beans, potatoes, rice. Like that, you can't compare that to an alcoholic who stops drinking.
So don't let anybody tell you that you're weird or that you are orthorexic or you have an eating disorder just because you refuse to eat crap anymore. And whether or not that crap is
If you ever considered doing commentary on the incel community, probably
a Twinkie, or for you in your particular metabolism, a bowl of spinach, it doesn't really matter. If it bothers you, if it makes you sick, then you need to avoid it. It's as simple as that.
Broccoli doesn't make people sick.
I've said repeatedly, does everybody on the planet need to be on a carnivore diet? Absolutely not, right? I don't believe that.
Sean Baker is a fucking moron. I was able to cure my alcoholism and can now drink moderately using a medication called naltrexone. Also, they're growing evidence that GLP-1 agonists may be effective at treating all addictions, including alcoholism.
Well, I could imagine GLP-1 agonists would be good for alcoholics because it just makes you less interested in eating. So it wouldn't surprise me. And Yeah, like the idea that medications can't solve these problems is just fucking retarded. Why would you assume any other kind of lifestyle intervention is just naturally going to be better than any kind of medication? It's just dumb. Thanks for the donation, though, Sanderbling.
I think it is a tremendously powerful tool. It is a tremendously powerful intervention for people with autoimmune disease, cardiometabolic disease, inflammatory disease, gut issues. And that number is not an insignificant, tiny percentage of the population. That represents tens, if not hundreds of millions of people, and certainly worldwide. In the U.S., that's many tens, if not over 100 million people. We have something like 100 million pre-diabetics and diabetics. We have another, 20 to 50 million people with autoimmune disease.
Yeah, it's funny because red meat increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. So yeah, definitely recommend a diet that consists of only red meat. Makes sense.
If we count arthritis and inflammatory disease and all things on top of that, that's a significant percentage of the people. Probably all the 70% that are overweight, obese, and addicted to food probably fall within that category. So anyway, just some thoughts. A little sweat here. Like I said, I was out of breath from the workout. I'm excited to get back rolling. I've got to go out of town again to Ohio on the 12th. I'm speaking as a keynote speaker at a large veterinarian conference, which would be interesting, in Columbus. Be there on the 12th. From there, I go back to Europe. I'll be in Slovakia I want to say around the 22nd, 23rd, speaking in Bratislava at a sort of a carnivore conference. Then I'm back in town, and then I've got to go to New York to speak on the 5th of October, and on and on and on. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching the channel. Thanks for supporting what I do. More importantly, thanks for taking care of yourself. It's on you guys to fix the problem.
What a fucktard.